over the past few weeks, Parliament has been the focus of media and public attention, especially over allegations of corruption, irregular expenditure, and lack of accountability. Several opposition figures have been at the center of some of these accusations and counter-accusations of corruption. This comes on the heels of internal rifts within all of the country's major opposition political parties. Tonight, to put some of these issues in perspective, is the leader of opposition in Parliament, Joel Ssenyonyi. Joel Ssenyonyi, leader of opposition in Parliament, a warm welcome to you. You're on the spot.
Thank you, Patrick. Good evening to you and to the viewers out there.
I can always not forget to say welcome home.
Yeah.
This was your home until a couple of months back. It's always good to have you
years
back.
Now.
Until years now, yeah. You know how years move.
Yeah, it's always a good thing.
And congratulations, you're now the leader of opposition in Parliament. You're the leader of the government in waiting. If anything,
in Parliament, yes.
If anything, we have the president, the other side, on the yellow corner, and we have you on the red corner. How does it feel? Well,
in Parliament, I lead one side. The Prime Minister leads the other side. How does it feel? It's new, obviously, to myself. It's a challenge, but I like a good challenge. I like to take the bull by the horns. And I'm geared up to execute my mandate.
You know what is interesting, is that just a couple of years back, and we were moving about in this newsroom, and then Joel just came in here, and a group of sharpshooters around you, and I'm like, okay, this is it now.
Many things do change. Such is life.
Are you getting used to the sharpshooters around you?
That's the smaller issues. Those are the minor issues in my view. But getting used to the role and the mandate, and good enough. I've got a good team of colleagues. We are working together to make sure we execute our mandate as expected.
So as soon as you came into office and explosive reports start coming in, including one of your own, a highly respected figure of the opposition, a member of Parliament, your predecessor, the Honorable Matthias Mpuuga, having received a service award of $500 million Uganda shillings. And I saw an unsigned letter, purportedly from LOP, that you're even calling on him to resign. Was that actual letter authentic?
Yeah, by now you should know, because
it wasn't signed.
NTV, for which I worked for 5 years, many times you release statements. Management, no one signs. Okay? Why? It's got headed paper. And as long as it's released through the channels that are known, belong to NTV, that's an NTV document. So that's not something that anybody that knows how these things operate
the modus operandi doesn't look so good, because it's not enough for you to have a headed paper. It's not enough to say management. It's much better when I have the legendary signature of Joel Ssenyonyi, and then I can say, okay, this is it. Well, or maybe Davis Louis Lubongoya.
Regardless, it's still our document. That's the most important thing.
It's still your document. But I'm more interested, Joel, in the response of the Honorable Matthias Mpuuga. And I'm going to pick a few things that I saw, and I found them quite intriguing. Why? Because he talks about the battles within that he's been facing. For example, let me look at something he said. The general public is aware and alive the internal intrigue and machinations, unfortunately, within this young party over the last 2.5 years, during my occupation of the coveted office of LOP. Here is a high-ranking member of LOP talking about internal intrigue, people who have fought him for 2.5 years, in a response to that letter. What do you make of such?
Okay, so we began with this issue. Hopefully along the way we shall broaden it, talk about Parliament.
Yes.
But maybe to give a bit of genesis before this, what did transpire. We did see these revelations, and they were very concerning to us. And so a meeting was convened by the president of the party. It had the deputy presidents. I was in that meeting, other senior colleagues, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Honorable Namboze, Honorable Segona was invited, but I was not able to make it, and other party officials, the Secretary General, the Treasurer. And in convening this meeting, we wanted to understand, number one, is this actually true, and how it got to happen. he did concede that yes, it is true. And then we began to break down how all of this got to happen, because for a group of people to sit and award themselves these kinds of monies is problematic on many fronts, legally and morally. Some people have been saying it's just a moral issue. No, even legally, it does not count. To say we are awarding ourselves for what exactly? You know, in 2017, there was uproar even in Parliament over you remember the infamous 6 billion shillings handshake to 42 government officials who had saved government 2.4 trillion Uganda shillings in an arbitration case in London. And Kosase actually did probe that, and that report was read by then Vice Chairperson, who is now the Speaker.
Let me say with the brother Simon, I'm inclined to believe what, for example, the President of the Uganda Law Society said, that it is illegal. I'm inclined to believe also that it's immoral. That's even unfair. So, but I'm looking at the response of the man on the things he talks about within your party, Joel, you know, of the intrigue, of fighting him 2.5 years at that level. And this response right in the middle of that controversy is where my eyes, you know, settled on. And I'm like, really, is this what has been happening? Or this is just sour graping?
I will still complete what I was saying, and then I'll respond to that question. Because I was juxtaposing two situations. The other was a service award to people who had actually done something spectacular. But the narrative was, you guys get paid to do that job. So you cannot say, let you be rewarded. Fast forward, this situation gets to happen, and we told our colleague, how? What spectacular thing had you people done a few months down the road in office to award yourselves? It would even have been different if somebody else was awarding you, but here you are awarding yourselves. It is problematic. Our colleague did concede, and he apologized in that meeting of all of those leaders. Incidentally, when he did write that letter, first of all disputing given the confession and so on, then people began to speak out who were in that meeting. And they're saying, hey, our colleague, don't mess this up. We all were in that meeting, and it is okay. It does not make you any less when you concede something and acknowledge. Now, you are talking about what it does raise intrigue and says the general public. What intrigue exactly? Because I don't know if it is intrigue that propelled him to become the deputy president of the party central region. Is it intrigue that propelled him to become the LOP? Is it intrigue that, you know, caused him to become commissioner and so on? Anyway, my point is, and again, I don't want to be here as if having a back and forth flexing with my colleague, but the issue is, and what we have been saying, respond to the financial questions, respond to the accountability issues. Yeah, if there are concerns, you're the deputy president of the party. Have you brought these before in all the meetings that we have had? I don't think so. You know, but that doesn't mean you can't raise an issue. Yeah, you certainly can. I'm saying you have not raised it before in all the forums that we have had. But that no one can take away your right to raise any issue that you want. But for now, we are saying respond to the accountability issues.
How does he respond to this? Because here is a man, I'm not even defending him. I'm only using his words, what he wrote and gave to the public. And that it became the official style of different party leaders to undermine my work, including a hiring of bloggers to abuse and insult my person. This is Mpuga talking about NOP.
And I have said, he at his level has got a right to raise any issue within the rank and file of the party. There's several platforms where we do that and have had engagements. So he can raise that. But we are saying, don't use that as a scapegoat. Respond to the accountability issues. So while we are asking you to account for this illegality that did happen, you don't say, people don't like me, intrigue and so on. Okay, you can raise those issues because you have not raised them anyway in the past at all these different platforms, but you can still raise them. In the meantime, though, respond to these critical issues that are being raised. Don't scapegoat.
You know, well, we're going to get into the issue of what is at hand, and that is, of course, allegations of corruption, grand scale kind of corruption. But last on what he asserts is that the family interests in the party. You know, if these things were just said by any low-ranking member of the party, we would just let it go. But when it is a vice president, leader of opposition at that level, somebody's got to take a pause and listen to him. I wonder whether you have since called him to order, or whether that actually bothers you, that a leader at that level is talking about family interest and intrigue in the NUP.
I'm actually, we are looking forward to having an engagement with him regarding that matter, whether he's holding any position or not, but most importantly, as a member of parliament, as somebody who is part of us, we would want to hear what that is, that family clique and that kind of thing. Because like I've said, if you're saying the family clique is the one asking you to step down, okay, that same family clique made you deputy president. Why didn't you complain at the time and say, no, this is a family clique, you can't appoint me deputy president, you can't appoint me LOP, I've rejected that. But again, let's not trivialize this issue, yeah? What I'm saying is, whatever concerns there can be, because they have not been raised in the past, to say there is an issue here of a family clique and that kind of thing, because we've held several meetings, whether as NEC, different engagements together with him, and none of these issues have been raised. But he can still raise them, no problem. But in the meantime, can you first respond to these critical issues? Don't try and deflect. There's such a thing as deflecting, yeah? So you're being asked about money, and you're saying, family clique, intrigue. First respond to this issue, yeah? And again, you get to you can at any point raise whichever other concerns, because like I'm saying, these concerns have never been raised by him in all the discussions and engagements that we have had. Why raise them now? But again, most importantly, I'm not denying his right to raise these issues, yeah? Because all of us can have concerns within our families, within the entities we belong to, and that kind of thing, and that's okay, but don't use it as a scapegoat. Respond to the issues, the money issues that are being put to you.
So the money issues, Joel, there have been explosive allegations against the Speaker, against many people, commissioners, and the other day you were calling that Parliament should come back from recess. Generally, how do you respond to these allegations? You've just come into office and boom, this happens. And so Uganda and other leaders are looking upon people like you to see what kind of response you're going to take to bring back sanity and integrity in the house that Ugandans have a lot of hope in.
Patrick, the Constitution, Article 82A, provides for the office that I occupy, the functions thereof, including within our rules of procedure, Rule 14 thereof. My duty, together with the colleagues that I work with, is to keep the government in check. Now, government has got three arms: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And I'm saying this because I've had some people saying, Joel, your focus should be the executive and that kind of thing. Why are you hitting Parliament? You belong to it. Oh yes, I do belong to it. I should hold it to account as well. And that's why we are speaking out. That's why I'm speaking out myself. Because the same way I am holding Nabanja over Mabati and other issues like Chibalama, the same way I want to hold the institution to which I belong accountable. When I'm holding the Ministry of Health accountable about Lubowa Hospital, in which we have injected over 600 billion shillings, and there's nothing to show for it, as I hold them accountable to that, I should hold my institution accountable as well, because it's all money from the consolidated fund, taxpayers' money. So there is heavy sounding issues that have been raised against Parliament, with specificity against the Speaker of Parliament. And what I have said is that, number one, let's not dismiss these issues, because they're critical. Of course, I've had the spokesperson of Parliament respond a couple of times. Of course, each time he does respond, he confirms these different things, only to say, but you're exaggerating it, you're not bringing it in good faith, and that kind of thing. I'll break them down. Number one, per diem of the Speaker. Members of Parliament, leaders in Parliament do travel, and there's per diem for different, engagements out of the country and so on. But you see, when abuse of that happens, it becomes problematic. And I'll take you through a few things, yeah? The Speaker traveled for 30 official leave days, and she was paid 499 million. 30 biannual holiday days, 494 million. She traveled to Kenya for 43 days. She was paid 653 million.
We're almost entering
Uganda shillings.
We're almost entering 2 billion now.
She traveled to Midrand, Johannesburg, South Africa for 20 days. She was paid 318 million. She traveled to Kenya for another 30 days, 487 million, and so on and so forth. There's Kigali, Rwanda, 106 million, 4 days, Italy, 98, and so on and so forth. This is problematic. Why? Not that the speaker has no right to travel, not that she's not entitled to per diem, but what's the per diem of the speaker? As we know it.
Let me ask Joel, who determines who gets what, the per diem of every member of parliament, and including the speaker? Is it herself determining, or there's a commission determining, or a committee of parliament determining?
The commission is in charge of the institution and the finances, and it sets these figures. And so the figure that I'm talking about was set.
Not by the Right Honourable Anita Among,
No.
but by commission or committee of parliament.
But now this was set by her, which is what we're saying is a problem. Because the figure that was set is $990 US. When you do make computations of this, it's about over $4,000 per day. How? When did that happen? And that's why we're asking these questions. In good faith, by the way. Some people think I don't like, when we were asking Honorable Mpuga to account, people were saying, you don't like him. So now I'm asking the Right Honorable Anita Among to account. Is it that I don't like her too? Is it that I don't like the clerk to parliament, the accounting officer? When I say account as accounting officer and all these different people. Anyway, again, that's scapegoating, yeah? So we are saying this is problematic. But number two, the speaker did not travel to a number of these places.
Okay.
And that's a fact, because for some of the places where she was meant to be, she was here chairing the House. How can you be here and in Nairobi at the same time? How can you be in Nairobi and in Italy at the same time? It doesn't make sense. The other issue also, for 146 calendar days, she was paid for 164 days. So you have bloated the money, you have bloated the days, but also this would mean, when you look at the days that they say she traveled, yeah, that she was away for about 5 months. That has never happened. Even when the speaker did get twins, 2 weeks later, she was chairing parliament, and we said, you should have taken more leave days. So there's a problem with all of that. So what this means is, even for when she did not travel, she claimed the money.
The first time
that
we had
wrong.
this was the first time we got to know, as the public, was the parliamentary exhibition. So have you gone back to really find out in the exact figures whether this is authentic?
These figures...
Because it is possible somebody can go back and say, you know what, no, this was just talked about. Here's the actual, the $990, but here is the allegation.
These figures, Patrick, are of a government system called IFMIS. And that system is interesting. It captures all the money spent from the consolidated fund per entity. Let's take Parliament to be an entity. And the figures have not been denied. In fact, the spokesperson of Parliament, what he said is, you see, when the Speaker, for example, travels to the US, Serena there is $3,500 US a night. So in other words, he was trying to justify this. He was not denying it, because it's not deniable.
Well, what I remember also him, he was seated in that very chair where you are, claiming that this is the proposition, that she has actually not spent this money, but this is what they have proposed her to spend.
Did he deny that she got this money?
He said, she said she has not yet received the money.
That's what he said.
But this is what has been proposed for her to take.
So now you see, he's trying to, find a way of hiding
because I was very
behind.
categorical on that, whether she's taken that money.
It's off
He's saying this is what they have discussed for her to take.
Now,
let me underline that, because she,
and it's good that there's a bit.
Not, that's what he said.
It's good there's a bit of an admission to say, okay, yes, that figure I know about it, but I'm not sure she got the money. This, you see, all the figures that are captured on IFMIS, it's money that has been spent.
Yes.
IFMIS does not capture proposals, yeah. So we are saying this is problematic. We demand for accountability for this. Now, when you look at other capturings therein, the clerk to parliament, he also traveled a couple of times. In some cases, he was in Nairobi and France at the same time.
That's Adolphe Mwesige?
Yes, Adolphe Mwesige, who is the accounting officer. And there's figures to show. Of course, the speaker, whenever she travels, apparently is supposed to go with the husband, 30 days official leaves by annual holiday, and so on. I don't understand. That's also problematic, even if it were to be within the rules. But I wanted to break down for you, if you could give me about 3 to 5 minutes, yeah, the gravity of the issue. The other is staffing concerns. The Auditor General captured in his report 105 staff that are unidentifiable. And he's saying, wait a minute, these people here are drawing a salary. Who are they? Where are they?
You have ghost employees.
And that's the Auditor General's report. Those are not Joel Ssenyonyi's words, just in case you think I don't like the Speaker or whoever. That's the Auditor General's report, yeah? That's a problem. So what we do here, people are hired, but they do other work elsewhere, but they draw a salary from Parliament. That is wrong.
Wait a minute. This could be people working in the private entity,
yes,
the speaker, maybe media house.
That's the information that we get. Some are apparently at her hospital, at her school, and so on and so forth. Because even the Auditor General is saying this should be explained. It doesn't make sense. And by the way, the Auditor General is a staff or is an officer of Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah? So is it that he also doesn't like the Speaker? Those who are saying we are raising these issues because we don't like the Right Honourable Anita Among. No, we are saying this should be accounted for. It's problematic. So as you're doing that, you know, staff in the office of the Leader of the Opposition, contracts for policy analysts were not renewed. I said, how is this so? Because normally this is not the practice. Why is it different now that I'm entering this office? They said, we have hit the wage bill, there's no more money. So you have no money apparently to renew contracts for people that have been around, but you're still recruiting new ones that are not even doing work anywhere here. But you have money to distribute amongst yourselves and so on. These are problematic
another
issues.
Response I've had on the unidentifiable members of staff that they have revised and only realized there are only 2 out of 100 plus you talked about. I've also had that kind of response. How do you react to that?
I saw a retraction in the Daily Monitor saying, no, we made a mistake. This is the correct one. So this is how auditing works. Because I used to chair an accountability committee. So you're the entity, I'm Auditor General or a representative thereof. We do come, we audit, we capture things. Then there's an exit meeting. An exit meeting is you're sitting with management and telling them we have captured all these different issues. Yeah? Do you have a defense? And then at that point, management can say, no, this is not correct. Here is the correct issue, here are the figures, then they rectify. So the report that is eventually outed, the final report, has gone through different phases. So where management thinks, no, this one was not captured, right? Here is the correct issue. It is captured at the exit meeting. So the final report that comes through has gone through different phases.
All right.
So you cannot wake up tomorrow and say, we made a mistake there.
Joel Ssenyonyi, Leader of Opposition in Parliament, hold on to your point, because you're going to take a break on the spot. We'll be right back. Back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Honorable Joel Ssenyonyi, the Leader of Opposition in Parliament. Now, you've since called for Parliament to come back from recess. So you have already given us what you see as the grand abuse of public resources, in my view. That's what I see. What is the strategy? What happens? Here, you're in Parliament, the numbers are so against you. I think the Speaker, who is facing all these allegations, is firmly in control of that House, and yet there are these allegations of abuse. How do you handle them?
Patrick, before that, if you could allow me 2 more minutes just to paint the rest of the picture of abuse. There's money that has regularly been deposited on accounts of staff. There's one here, an assistant HR, 2.39 billion shillings. The explanations there, Speaker's activity, corporate social responsibility for the Speaker. Another one, Principal Protocol Officer in the Speaker's office, 1.1 billion shillings. Another one, Director Corporate Affairs, that's Chris Obore, 1.7 billion shillings. Speaker's money for Speaker's activities, and so on. This is money which they go withdraw, take to the Speaker, apparently to carry out her activities, yeah? Still, Chris Obore and some other person, 4.73 billion shillings. This is money that is put on these people's accounts, yeah, to apparently execute the Speaker's corporate social responsibility and so on. And we are saying this is not acceptable. After the Kazinda situation, you remember, government issued standing orders saying that no more than 5 million shillings should be put on accounts of civil servants for field activities. You know that when an entity has a field activity, so money is put on the staff who are going to execute it. No more than 5 million shillings. People are having 4.4 billion shillings. And, all these different amounts for the Speaker's corporate social responsibility. Which ones are those? Can we get accountability for those? And again, why does the Speaker allocate herself billions of shillings for corporate social responsibility. What is that exactly? How does it make sense at all? How is it accounted for? Because if you're going to be donating...
Do you, the money for donation, is it, do you, looks like it is in that category where accountability is hazy?
Yeah, you can, and okay, somebody at her level...
It's more or less like the classified expenditure,
it should
CSR,
not be, and that's what I'm
like
saying.
Yeah.
Number one, somebody at her level can have a donations budget, and again, what amounts, given the kind of country we are, and so on. But here we are talking about billions of shillings.
Who decides the donation budget?
And those are the issues that I'm raising. Who determined this? That the Speaker has billions of shillings just to give away. And now, in giving away, who is she giving to? How do we follow that money so that the taxpayer who raised it...
What is the role of the parliamentary commissioners on the issues like this? On issues like this?
And that's why I'm saying the commission is meant to superintend over these issues.
Yeah. So isn't it possible that the commissioners could say, this we sat and this we passed?
One, I don't think the commission did sit to do this, but even if it did, it is wrong. How does the commission sit and say, Speaker, we have allocated you billions of shillings just to give away? How?
Because
but also,
if it so happens,
how is it accounted
if it so happens, Joel, that there's going to be a group of parliamentary leaders, either committee or commissioners, who can take the responsibility for this, it's game over.
Whoever, I'm actually waiting to see who takes responsibility for this.
Because they say we have handled it within our commission, this is within our right, this is what we determined, and we gave her the money.
I'm waiting.
And it's over, it's game over for whoever is going to raise an issue.
Whoever would say that would actually be implicating themselves. That's why no one is going to come out to say that. And the point that I'm raising, as somebody whose role is to keep government in check, can we have accountability for this money? If the Speaker is donating to health centers and so on, why did we not have that money through Ministry of Health, which we hold accountable through our committees, Auditor General, and that kind of thing? So these donations, who is auditing them? No one. That's why you can't even be sure that this money went to those people. What if it was used for other matters altogether?
So,
finally.
Another expose.
Because this is important. I have a contract here. This is a contract between the Parliamentary Commission and Mama Bukedia FM. That's a radio station belonging to the Speaker of Parliament. This is a contract, apparently, to advertise parliament-related work worth 3.13 billion shillings. 3 billion shillings, 135
This is a very loaded FM station in rural Uganda.
So this contract here worth 3.13 billion shillings. I am saying, how did the Speaker's radio station get a contract? When I raised this issue on some platform, a media house, the spokesperson of Parliament did say, but you see, Honorable Ssenyonyi, that money is not given at once. It's given in installments. I said, that's not my query. I said, number one, it's good you've actually admitted that this is not a forgery, because some people are saying these are forgeries. But I said, number two, my query is, were procurement regulations followed? What work exactly is this radio station doing on behalf of Parliament of Uganda, that it will be given 3.1 billion shillings? Media houses like NTV and others report about Parliament. Sometimes you people even cover us live. How much are you paid?
No, the news is free.
That's the point. In fact, you people who have an even wider coverage, it would be a bit justifiable if you were being paid some money. But now this one that is in one particular area, region, 3.1 billion. And that's not the worst part of it. The people who signed as managers on this contract, managers of the radio station, are staff in the office of the Speaker. I know them. These ones that signed as managers at the radio station, they are staff in the office of the Speaker of Parliament. How do you explain that?
Looks like primitive accumulation.
So these are the things that I'm saying are wrong, and they've got to be accounted for. And when I'm raising these things, I'm raising them in good faith. But also it's because it's my job to hold government accountable, including Parliament. These have got to be explained. You cannot escape away from this. And then you say, people raising those issues, they don't like me. Okay, let's imagine we don't like you. But can you first explain this?
So in this case, if you're going to be on the floor of the House, and you raise your hand, Madam Speaker, and then you want to, how are you going to do this? Because at the end of the day, you'll seek permission to speak, But it is the Speaker that gives you the permission. And at the end, and I've also seen, an environment of intimidation in that house.
Yeah.
Quite a number of you MPs, but maybe yourself you can speak, but a big number, with all respect, of members of Parliament today are so intimidated. I don't understand why. You have the mandate.
I'll tell you why.
How do you get intimidated?
I'll tell you.
You have people who have sent you that house. Why do you get intimidated?
This is why. You see, the Speaker,
if there's anything, okay,
has got overarching powers. Of course, number one determines who gets to speak. Okay, that's generally understandable. The Speaker has got to approve everything. Even when I need a coaster and we are going for an oversight visit as members of Parliament, the Speaker is the one to approve. One time I actually told her, I said, you see, this institution needs to offload some work from me because you need time to think strategically for the institution. But if you're going to sit there and from morning to evening, you're approving every little thing, this one's coaster, this one to go here, this field visit and that kind of thing. I said, no, Speaker of Parliament should be dealing with more strategic issues.
Let me tell you.
But let me first answer that question. Yes. Because you asked me, yes, why are people intimidated?
They're so intimidated. It's so gut-wrenching.
Yeah, because she's the one that has got to approve everything. I fear this, if I speak out, the Speaker won't give me a chance to speak. If I speak out, the Speaker won't allow me to travel and all of these different things, which is problematic. But again, if speaking out will cost you a trip, speak out because that's your job.
Joel, let me tell you one thing. As a voter, if there's anything that is gut-wrenching in that house, is to find men and women who are so intimidated that they cannot even speak their mind because of some small things like trip.
Which is sad.
Really?
It is problematic.
No, you guys know.
And
you shouldn't be better than that.
You're right. We need to be better because we are expected to do this job. And by the way, you were talking about numbers and so on. This is not about the LOP. This is not about the opposition. It's a concern of everybody. My maiden speech as the leader of the opposition in Parliament, I said, look, my role is to keep the government in check. So I'm going to push back against corruption. I'm going to push back against poor service delivery. I'm going to push back against human rights violations and other issues. And I told colleagues, I said, look, these issues are of concern to all of us in this house, not just the opposition. Even you who belong to the NRM, when money is stolen, it is your voters who will go to a hospital and there's no medicine. It should be of concern to you. Why should it be a concern of just the opposition, that money is being wasted like this? It should be a concern of all right-thinking leaders in this country. And that's why we want accountability, we want proper thorough audits, we want action.
So you're one of those voices, in fact, the initial voice to call for the House to come back from a recess. How do you intend to handle this in a house where the numbers are so tilted against you, where intimidation is so high that people cannot even speak their minds, where actually the person you want to ask for accountability is the one supposed to give you the powers to speak? In that environment, how do you even tackle these issues? One,
the House has been called for plenary tomorrow. There's several issues on the order paper. We'll still raise these critical issues to say, look, this House has been put into disrepute because of these different issues. Can we address them? Can we talk about them? My hope is that the Speaker will not try and push that under the carpet. It does not help her, because when you do that, you're confirming to people out there that you're guilty, and so you're trying to, discourage any discussion about these issues. We are there as representatives of the people. Let's raise these concerns.
So are you telling us the order paper is already out?
Yeah, of course the order paper is always out whenever a meeting is called.
Yeah, because sometimes I remember when we used to be reporters there, the order paper could come even at midday and you have no idea what you're going to discuss. I would always wonder, because you can come tomorrow and there's a new order paper and what you think is the order paper, the issue that of your concern is not there.
Well, the rules again give the Speaker powers to even amend the order paper.
Yeah.
All right, so our hope is that we can get to discuss these issues because they are of concern to all of us. Members of Parliament are in their constituencies and people are calling them thieves.
So you really believe that the Speaker will put on the order paper an issue that more or less is incriminating, more or less is, alleging all this abuse? And let it stay on the order paper tomorrow? Is that what you think is going to happen?
My hope is that the Speaker will not stifle debate about this issue. But for me, it goes beyond just being, debated about, because we can debate. Sometimes that House is like a talk show. Where we are here, we have come, we have talked, and after talking, we go tomorrow you'll host another person and you've moved on, yeah?
But Ugandans have taken note.
Yes, but you see, besides that, we are talking about action. What we are saying is want a comprehensive response to these issues. We want audits of, an audit of the Parliamentary Commission. Because these things that are happening are wrong, regardless of the political party you support. If you are Ugandan who pays taxes, these issues should concern you. This is not even time to defend and say, that's a leader in our party or that kind of thing. Wrong is wrong because it affects all of you. Look at our city and the potholes therein. How much money is needed to fix? See how much money is wasted. I did on the floor of Parliament, while I was saying we need to allocate more money to healthcare, for example. Abuja Declaration talks about 15%. We only allocate 6%. Education, I said we can pay our men and women in uniform better. Soldiers, police officers, prisons officers, we can pay them better. We can avail money for all the service delivery issues. And some folks, across were saying, but we don't have money. I told them that's not true. We lose over 10 trillion shillings to corruption every year. That's the IGG's figure. It's not even Joel Ssenyonyi's figure. Let's deal with corruption. We shall have money available. There's a lot of wastage that happens. This is, by the way, just an example. All right? We are talking about Parliament, but billions absquatulate in ministries, government departments, and so on. Let's deal with those issues. There is money available. So as we are raising these issues, we are not trying to paint anyone bad. We are saying these matters have got to be addressed. And no one should try and stifle these kind of engagements. And the scapegoating that I keep hearing, you see, this is a smear campaign and so on, but you're not denying the authenticity of these issues. So respond to them cogently. Give accountability to the people of Uganda.
There have been also allegations of corruption roaming. We had some other members who received a token of 50 million just the other week. So if that happens to be true, almost everybody whose hands are soiled, it's going to be hard for people who are thinking like you to even have allies.
Well, maybe that's the other reason that people fear to speak out. That institution needs a proper cleanup, I'll tell you. And by extension, the country, really. We are now focused on Parliament, but the whole country is a mess when it comes to money issues, corruption, and so on, yeah? We do hear money keeps exchanging hands in that institution. Just
last week, what we're getting here, we are following the stories that about some members were getting 50 million shillings.
We did hear that. And we have been saying and appealing, that people who have a bit of some evidence and what, you bring it so that it helps us. But I had an engagement with colleagues, and I cautioned my colleagues. I said, look, some of you are even senior legislators. You've been here 3 terms. Me, I'm a first timer, but given the office I occupy, I'm just cautioning us. Let's be careful, because traps are going to be set for you. You're going to people's homes to pick money. You think no one is seeing you, and so you won't be held accountable. Those homes have got cameras, and people are recording you, whoever is giving you that money. Now that we are pushing back, somebody will say, I'm not going to die alone. Here is evidence, recordings. This one picked money, this one, and that kind of thing. So we need to be extremely careful. But hopefully we can get some evidence and act on it. The reason why we have dealt with the situation of the Honorable Mpuga the way we have is because there's evidence. Because in the past people were saying people took money, you didn't take action. Because also you're not going to go after somebody when you don't have cogent evidence. Otherwise they'll say you're witch hunting them. But where there's evidence, you get to take action.
Yeah, but now, how are you going to take action, especially for all these rumors going on that quite a number of people have eaten money?
And that's the point that I'm saying.
And some of them are colleagues from your side of the aisle.
And that's what I'm saying, Patrick,
Yes.
that we are hoping we can get some evidence. It will be very helpful. Yeah. But in the meantime, what we have evidence about, we are proceeding and demanding accountability.
Yeah, but using the parliamentary structures, I'm trying to find out how Joel and people who are thinking like you are going to demand for accountability in that structure where somebody does the order paper where somebody gives you the permission to speak, where maybe others are not even going to say a word. How do we move in that environment? It was quite
well, you've got to do what you've got to do. But you see, good enough. I want to appreciate the people of Uganda because they are alert now and they are joining this fight against corruption. They are speaking out in various ways. You've seen them on social media. In the past, people thought social media is, you know, it doesn't amount to much, but just see what's happening. While you clobber people for protesting on the streets, they are finding other ways of speaking out. And that speaking out is important. So that it's not just Joel Ssenyonyi on the floor of Parliament, where he might be stifled, where he might be a lone voice, where they might tell him, okay, now we've closed that debate, let's move to something else. Those voices from the people of Uganda should not stop, because it's their money. And once that pressure continues to mount, eventually, because this responsibility is not just for the leader of the opposition, it is for you, Patrick Kamara, because you pay taxes. When you get your paycheck from NTV, part of that money has gone off for taxes.
There's something called the payee. Pay as your hand.
And that's why even you
pay as your hand enjoys.
And that's why it's important that you also don't keep quiet. That you don't say, Ssenyonyi, we are waiting, what are you going to do? It's all of us. As Ssenyonyi plays the part he has got to play in Parliament and elsewhere, it's all of us that have got to be involved collectively. That's when it makes a difference. You see, in Parliament, during Toju Kwatako, MPs put up a spirited fight. Yeah, both verbally, physically, and that kind of thing. But they eventually lost the battle. And somebody was asking, where were the people of Uganda? Or were you just there cheering them on, cheering on the Chagulanyis? Yes, yes, fight, and that kind of thing. For as long as you don't join, there are too few there in, you know, they'll even send SFC to beat them up. And that's why it's got to be all of us, collectively.
Some kind of anger that is positive or even holy. Well, at the end of the day, do you think what you see, the response on social media, are Ugandans likely to deny some of these leaders the mandate to lead next time they go to ask for that mandate?
Hopefully.
Because ultimately, that's what should translate into for a change to happen.
Hopefully, but as you know, our elections, you know, sometimes our people are also accomplices. You hear them say, that person is a thief, but he or she is our thief. Maybe he or she shares the spoils with us. People also need to up their game in that regard. But like I was saying, our elections can be problematic. People will pay their way through intimidation, use the military, and that kind of thing. But in an ideal situation, that's what it should be. But I'm saying, don't wait to hold your leaders accountable at election time. Now. Because these things are happening now. They're not waiting to happen in 2026. Hold your leaders accountable now.
The problem is that members of parliament, even from across the aisle where you sit, they also are facing serious allegations of corruption and abuse of office. So we, in the fourth estate, or even the public, you know, sometimes you wonder, where can you run to? Who are the good guys? Who are the good guys in this government? Because they don't, with all respect, we don't see them.
You see, Patrick, human beings, inherently, we are evil as human beings. You don't need to teach a child to fight, to do what's wrong. If anything, you've got to teach them to do the right thing, because they are born that way. We are born that way. We are inherently evil. So we must be taught and nurtured and straightened to do what is right. And that's why it's important that there are checks and balances. It's not enough that you'll have Ssenyonyi who you like or who you say and think, this person here is straight. As long as there are no checks and balances, anyone is bound to do the wrong thing. Those checks and balances have got to be in place. And part of the checks and balances is when the population is demanding for accountability to say, hey, this has got to be taken care of.
You know, because the biggest problem is that people like you are supposed to hold the government to account, including Parliament. But where you come from, you're more divided. So is FDC, so it's you, so is UPC, so is DP. And so you'll spend more time, you know, hitting amongst yourselves than even looking at what the problem is. That's what I see.
Yeah, that can happen, but it does. I mean, we are now here talking about Parliament. Largely, we are not talking about NUP. So yes, there can be some issues within the home, but you don't stop moving on other fronts and dealing with what you need to take care of. And again, yes, some of those divisions are deliberate, that Mr. Museveni will throw money into some of these parties to cause confusion, but that should not derail you. Deal with what you need to deal with, okay? Take action within your home's political parties, wherever you see those situations, but keep moving, because we have a bigger picture. That's the country.
Are you not running a risk where issues of corruption will be politicized, and then everybody will retreat to their cocoon or even to their colors, and then at the end of the day, they'll look at it.
What do you mean politicized?
Because they'll think, this is Simon, this is Joel trying to hit at us. This is Joel, doing his politics. Let us galvanize ourselves and push back. We have the numbers, we have the people, and before you know it, it is turned against like a political game.
Well, and I've heard some voices who are saying all those different things, but it does not take away the facts. And like I've been saying, calling on colleagues, this is not a matter of the LOP or opposition or that kind of thing. These are facts that affect all of us, regardless of the political party you belong to. No one benefits from theft of taxpayers' money, no one. Whether you are opposition or NRM, when you go to a hospital and there is no medicine, you suffer. I don't know how many times people take their cars to the garage because of the bad roads in the city here, regardless who you are. And sometimes regardless of even the car that you drive. You might be a bit comfortable and so on, but eventually it will have an issue. And the more the comfort of the car, the more expensive the spare parts when eventually you get a challenge. My point though is, all of us are affected. So I'm hoping that we can, disabuse ourselves of our political parties and avoid saying, let's fight for our person. Fight for what is right.
Joel Ssenyonyi, leader of opposition in Parliament. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll give you the opportunity to have your say. You'll see the numbers on the screen. Pick your phone and tell us what you think. And in case you're angry, and yes, some of you could be angry, remember to be angry but also to be civil, so that you can use words that perhaps are palatable. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Joel Ssenyonyi, leader of opposition in Parliament. This is the moment when you have your say. The numbers on the screen. Pick your phone and call us and tell us what you think about these accusations of abuse of office and corruption in Parliament. In the meantime, I'll wait for those calls, Joel. I think I've stumbled upon also allegations against yourself. Of nepotism, people you have decided to employ in your own office, Joel. Your drivers, your ZT analysts and whatever, these are friends and families. So are you any better?
It's actually a good thing you ask that, because somebody sent me a tabulation. Somebody came up with a tabulation saying Joel's driver is his brother, office assistant is his sister-in-law, and all of those different things. I don't have any relative in my office, not even a distant relative. Yeah, but of course, you see, as you keep pushing back, when you fight corruption, it fights back. When you fight corruption, it fights back. So yeah, people will keep coming up with things and saying, even him, this person is his relative. And I was deliberate about that. And that's not to say I don't have relatives who want jobs. Any of us would have people. I mean, when I got into this office, shortly after the announcement, before I actually occupied the office, I got calls from all manner of people, relatives, and
but what's wrong
saying
with
connect us, and you've got to be careful, because where do you draw the line?
If somebody is competent to add value to
and that's the challenge, because then chances are high you will ensure you'll be blinded in a sense, yeah. Even when there's somebody who's more competent. But now, because there's a relative, you take your relative and that kind of thing. And so I was deliberate about not pushing through any relative of mine. And then, like I'm saying, I do have relatives who need jobs. Some are very close relatives, yeah? But I can't be blaming Mr. Museveni for hiring his wife, his son, his brother, his son-in-law, his brothers-in-law, and all of that, and then I get to do the same thing. So I don't have any relative in my office. And I'm saying that very confidently because no one can challenge me. So the propagandists, will come up with different things and so on. My driver is not my brother. I don't even know his parents, by the way. My office assistant, I don't even know the parents, yeah? So they're not even distant. You can be a close relative and then you can be distant. They're not even that. But like I'm saying, when you fight corruption, it fights back.
So this money we're talking about billions of money, like you're talking fighting back. 10 trillion is lost every year through corruption. That money is enough to insulate whoever is involved and live comfortably. I hope you understand that.
Yeah, and that's why this has got to be collective, because fighting corrupt people is not a a piece of cake. They will fight back. Recently, another person sent me some things there that Ssenyonyi was given, was it what? One said 100, another said 200 million by Uganda Airlines for him to bangle the report. I said, where have these ones been? We conducted our Uganda Airlines inquiry, produced a scathing report, and the speaker threw it out the window. And that's the time I had the fight. That was the first time I had a fight with the speaker. Because she first tried to stifle the investigation. Met the person who were investigating, Jennifer Bamturaki. I said, Madam Speaker, we are investigating this person. Why are you meeting them? How does that get to happen? And then she said, keep the media out of the inquiry. I said, no. All our inquiries, the media is present, they're public. We produced a report which she refused to be read on the floor, saying it had leaked. I said, I gave you a copy. Maybe you're the one who leaked it. So propagandists, again, will say that...
I've always wanted to know this. Okay, let me take a caller. I have a caller online. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your name and where are you calling from? Okay, looks like we had an issue with that caller. You could call again? And the numbers are on the screen. I wanted... Yes, we have a call online. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening to you all.
Yes, go right ahead with your question.
And our leader of opposition, Mr. Joel Ssenyonyi.
Good evening to you, sir.
My name is Apollo Kavuma. First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Joel Ssenyonyi for being transparent in whatever he's doing. But my question is, some time back, Mr. Museveni came out and said, while IDD was trying to fight corruption, and Mr. Museveni told her, go slow, those people will take out money. My question now is to our leader of opposition. Don't you fear that Mr. Museveni will come out and stop your campaign? Secondly, I would like to encourage you to be strong, because you are not working for yourself. You are working for us, Ugandans, who are suffering of poor roads, no medicine in hospitals, and etc. We have to check the Speaker of Parliament. Why is he spending that money, the taxpayers' money, like that? Thank you, Joel Ssenyonyi. Keep up that spirit. We are behind you. I'm Apollo Kavuma.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Apollo Kavuma. Thank you very much. Okay, as we wait for other callers, Joel, I've always wondered, you have the Auditor General, who's more or less an employee of Parliament. He's so qualified in looking into the books of accounts of government, and he's always doing a report. Why do we have to bring the same report of an employee of Parliament to an accountability committee? Why can't we, from there, the people who are being talked about for abusing office, take them to court? Because, look, with all respect, the Auditor General is more skilled, is more resourced to look into these are accountants, these are auditors, and there's no politics in it. Then why do you have to bring that report to a committee, which at the end of the day can easily say that we have found satisfactory more information to indicate? By the way, sometimes it takes about even 6 months. 6 months is enough for somebody to go back and even cook books of accounts and say, and provide the receipt and all the things that we're missing. Why don't we come from the Auditor General, right? If there's anybody to go to answer, let them go to court, let them defend themselves, and the story ends there.
Two things. One, the Auditor General is an office of Parliament.
Yes.
They do work on behalf of Parliament.
Yes.
So after doing that work, you bring it to the people on whose behalf you do that work to then process it. The second thing is the Auditor General obviously has many challenges. So almost every entity that, when I was here in Kosase, that we did inquire into, about 70% of the issues that you people would see in the news, they were not in the Auditor General's report. And there's a time we had an interaction with the team from the Auditor General, and they said, look, number one, we also have challenges. We have very few, and yet we have got to audit hundreds of entities. Number two, we have skilling issues. Because
So
if
you're
they are
saying-
meant to
so-
audit a road...
So you're saying a committee of Parliament would have more skills, more
Not
auditors, more
necessarily.
accountants and whatever to look into the books?
Not necessarily.
than- or
I
even
was
more
getting
time?
to why we would discover a lot more things, yeah? Number one, shortage of staff. Number two, they would say, look, if it is a road, we don't have engineers. Sometimes they do get, but it's not adequate and that kind of thing. But also, I don't know whether sometimes they get intimidated or whatever the case might be, but they've got challenges. Because we would ask them and say, this issue we have dug out on our own. Why didn't you capture it? And they would say, we have got shortages. When we dealt with Uganda Airlines, yeah, the Auditor General did highlight a few things. But then as we kept digging deeper, we discovered contracts where the ED is giving contracts to companies where she's a director. Because we'd look at the company and then we dig up with URSB. We find her name is in the system as one of the directors. How did she award this contract? There was no procurement regulations followed. And all of these things we discovered. Every entity that we dug up on, when we were handling Uganda Land Commission, people that were forging court documents, letters of administration, and then they would be given money, billions of shillings. The Auditor General did capture that, but we did our own digging up. I got in touch with a particular judge whom apparently had signed that court document. He said, that's not my signature. That time I'd even retired from the judiciary. So we're able to nip them in the bud. So point is, you keep digging deeper and deeper. When we were handling Uganda Railways Corporation, 48 billion shillings locomotives that were bought and they were just a problem. Procurement regulations were not followed. Number two, they spent more money because the recommendation was to buy locomotives that were 6 years old at 36 billion. They bought older locomotives much more expensively. When we did our digging up, we discovered they didn't even follow procurement, bidding and all of that. No, they just handpicked. Then they brought things that were malfunctioning. And so we, as committees, have got to go deeper than the Auditor General's report because they have got challenges, some of which they have raised, saying they need more staff and so on. So that's the reason.
It's good you're saying that you can actually go deeper than the Auditor General,
Yeah.
which I find very...
The rules actually allow us.
Okay.
Somebody at some point was complaining and saying, but Ssenyonyi, you people, you're going outside the Auditor General's report. I quoted for them the rules, which allow us to go outside of the Auditor General's report.
Okay, Paul
Yes. Mr. Makolo, one he did, Makolo Kavuma, he did appreciate, thank you for appreciating the work that we're trying to do. He's concerned because Mr. Museveni told the IGG, you leave some of those my corrupt people because they're investing here. They are building shopping malls. He said it on record. You people covered it in a story here at NTV. At least they're investing here, they're building shopping malls and arcades. But whose arcades are those? Are they for the country or for themselves? And that kind of thing. And that's the challenge about corruption. Because even those who are meant to fight it, if Mr. Museveni gets serious about fighting corruption, his government will crumble. Because corruption is the pillars that hold it together. He looks around him and everybody is wounded. And that's the challenge. We need to press the reboot button. Yeah? But again, we don't stop. We don't keep quiet. We keep pushing back. We keep pushing back because they'll try and frustrate it. And in many different ways, he'll try and save his people. He created the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. Just to remind you, that State House Anti-Corruption Unit was created on the backdrop of, there was a State of the Nation address. It was in this building at Serena. And Mr. Museveni castigated the IGG, saying, you have failed me in fighting corruption, and I'm going to create another entity. 2 weeks later, State House Anti-Corruption Unit. And some of us were saying, if you think this IGG is not doing a good job, fire them, put somebody else that will do a good job. But he was just being emotional because about a month before that, Nation Media Group, we had done a story. NTV Daily Monitor, we had interviewed Justice Mulyagonja, she was the IGG then. And we asked her, why is it that you always go after only small fish? And she said, whenever I go for the big fish, I find them hiding behind the president. You remember that? I don't know if you were part of the team by then. And so he got annoyed because she was exposing him. And that's why I said, you have failed me. Put up something else. But you see, empower the entities. The Inspectorate of Government, let them fail for anything else, but not because they are disempowered. If you think a particular person is not doing a good job, replace them. Give them staff if they are complaining about that.
What will it take to have a vibrant citizenry, a robust civic engagement, people who know their rights, who can ask the right questions, who will not be taken for granted? Because that could be the game changer for Uganda.
Well, at least it's beginning. It's beginning, it's picking up. It's also been deliberate to disempower, to emasculate the population. Back then when we were in school, there was such a thing as political education. I don't know if you did it. It was there. It was now scrapped. It was enlightening students, opening them up about their country and how they've got to stand up for their rights and so on. So they realized this thing here, these students are becoming very sharp. They go to the university and they have become a problem. So they scrapped it. And yet that was civic education, empowering the citizenry to know what they ought to do.
At one point it was called civics.
Yeah, civics.
Later political education.
Then political education and so on. So it's been deliberate. Why? Because you have a regime that is hell-bent on remaining in power willy-nilly, which is problematic. So everything else will be, on the wayside, which is problematic. And so we've got to keep fighting. We've got to keep pressing as the citizenry.
Joel Ssenyonyi, I want to thank you so much for the time you've given. And of course, the viewers are saying they're thanking you for the work that you're doing. What's going to be your parting shot?
Again, the things that I'm standing up against and speaking out, they are not in bad faith. They are not because I dislike any of these people. It doesn't matter anyway whether I like them or not. But there are critical issues that have got to be responded to. I respect the Speaker and the Honorable Mpuga and other leaders and the offices they do occupy. And they know I respect them. They know in their heart of hearts. But I will not stop in speaking out and demanding for accountability. All right? So when we are speaking out, it's not because there's hatred or whatever. No. Okay, let's even imagine I hate you, but can you respond to the issues? I would like to encourage Ugandans to keep speaking out.
All right.
Don't be intimidated. And I'd like to encourage my colleagues also in the House, not just the side that I lead, but across the NRM side, and appeal to them. Corruption affects all of us. Let this be a collective fight. Don't leave it to just Joel Ssenyonyi and the opposition.
All right.
All of us.
Joel Ssenyonyi, leader of opposition in Parliament, thank you so much. I want to believe what he said. He's not talking these things because he may be opposed or he hates some of those leaders. He's doing this because I suppose he loves Uganda more. Sometimes countries can go down, not because there are bad men and women around, but sometimes countries can also go down because the good men and women have decided to remain silent. Maybe if you speak up, you could add value to the Pearl of Africa. Good night and God bless Uganda.
Yeah.